Welcome back to 24 Chambers of Film. I'm Nathan, and today we're going to be reviewing Borderlands. If you're not familiar with Borderlands, it's the movie that just got released that is based on the video game franchise. Had an A-list cast, star-studded cast, had Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black lended his voice, Edgar Ramirez, Ariana Greenblatt, and Jamie Lee Curtis are probably some of the more notable names. Also had the guy that played Drago in Creed 2 and Creed 3, and it also had Gina Gershon in there, and a great cameo by Bobby Lee. Now, as far as this movie goes, when it comes to the game franchise, I played the first game, some of the second game. I'm not going to be comparing this to the video game franchise itself because I don't know enough of it to make apples to apples comparisons. But I'm going to be looking at this as a movie. And one of the interesting things that I learned about this movie that I did not know until the credits rolled was that Eli Roth co-wrote and directed this movie. And I thought it was super weird that none of the marketing, and this movie got a decent push in marketing. It was all over the Olympics when I was watching it, but that none of the marketing really pushed Eli Roth as a director. I'm curious if that was done on purpose. If maybe once he saw the final product, he was like, yeah, don't use this to promote the movie. Don't use my name to promote the movie. Not sure, but from the outside looking in, as soon as this movie came out, the trailer was entertaining, but I could tell that this movie was probably not going to live up to the hype. Hell, I would go as far as say this movie's not going to recoup its budget at the box office. And it's not because it is a bad concept. I think the concept for this movie would have worked. I think it came down to the execution. The movie's entertaining. If you go in there and you're just not expecting anything and you just want to be entertained for an hour and a half, an hour, 40 minutes, it's not bad. You will be entertained. But as a whole, it lacks a lot, in my opinion. So as I get into this, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet and you plan on watching it, probably turn this off, come back and watch it afterwards because I'm not going to try to give away everything, but there will be things that spoil somewhat of the movie. So when it comes to the movie, you have Cate Blanchett. She is the main protagonist, Lilith, and as always, Cate Blanchett does a great job. But the problem I see is that in the movie, you don't really get a chance for the characters to develop. It's an hour and 40 minutes, and it starts and doesn't stop till the very end. And there's so much being thrown at you that I think it's just too much for that small time frame. The movie's entertaining, like I said. It's entertaining in the sense that you're going there and you're just not looking to pick something apart. You're just looking for an action-packed movie. And that's fine. Sometimes you need that, right? And this would fill that role. But overall, as a whole, I don't think it does the job. I was actually pretty surprised too because when I went to the movie, the crowd was predominantly middle-aged couples, which I found kind of weird. I was not expecting that. I People like my dad essentially were watching, like my dad and my mom were watching this movie, and my dad and my mom don't play video games at all. And so I thought it was very interesting that that was the crowd that was there. For a second, I thought I was in the wrong movie theater when I was waiting for this movie to start because of the crowd that was in there. So in this movie, Kate Blanchett's character Lilith is a bounty hunter, and she is tasked with trying to capture Tiny Tina, who in the beginning of the movie was broken out of containment or a prison, I don't know what you want to call it, a lab, by Kevin Hart's character Roland, and Krieg kind of just joins him along the way in the very beginning. So she is tasked by the owner, founder, leader, whatever you want to call him, of a company called Atlas, and he's played by Edgar Ramirez, that guy. And basically, he's telling Lilith, Kate Blanchett, that Tiny Tina's his daughter, and that she had sent Kevin Hart Roland to bring her back to him, but that instead he abducted her. So she takes the bounty, offers her a lot of money, takes the bounty. Kind of can tell from the beginning that Kate Blanchett's going to be a badass. And when she arrives to the planet, she is greeted by a robot named Claptrap, who is voiced by Jack Black. And he's basically been waiting for her to return to that planet because that planet is her original home. That's where she was born, and it's called Pandora. And Pandora is basically a place where there is corporations mining for this mystical vault, and there's a bunch of quote unquote psychos or rebels, I guess you might call them, which inhabit that planet. They were abandoned there, or at least in the game, right? They were abandoned there by the big corporations. They don't really, at least I don't recall them touching too much on that in the movie, which is one of the biggest issues I had with this movie. There is so much to be told, but they try to condense it into such a small amount of time that you don't connect with the characters because you don't have time to connect with the characters. And I think that's what hurt this movie more than anything. So, with that said, I'm going to get right into the acting of this movie. Cate Blanchett, phenomenal job. Knocked it out of the park. I mean, she's a great actress. I don't think there really is any performances where I can say, oh, Cate Blanchett did a bad job. I was actually surprised by Kevin Hart in this movie because he wasn't like, yes, he had some jokes, but it was so toned down. He was almost like he was such a secondary character to Kate Blanchett. You didn't see a lot of the Kevin Hart kind of dominating the screen with his humor that you see in most movies that he's in, which I thought was pretty cool. But at the same time, you don't get any character development from him. You don't really get a reason why he takes Tiny Tina other than what is explained in the overall story of they believe she's a savior that can unlock the vault, but there's no connection as to why he is involved with this other than they don't want it to fall into Atlas's hands. But what drives him, right? What's his background like? There's none of that in here. The other issue that I had with with the acting. Well, there was only one issue that I had with the acting, really, more than anything, and that was the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis, who plays Patricia Tannis, she's a scientist. She was doing this thing with her voice where she was sounding a little bit like I don't know how to do it, but she was basically making her voice sound higher, and I don't know why they did that. I don't know if that's based on the character, but it just didn't work. I'm looking at Jamie Lee Curtis basically trying to talk like she's Jennifer Tilly. I didn't like it at all. It was actually distracting to me in the movie. The guy that played Krieg, I wish he was basically like an NPC this entire movie. He was just in the background. Every once in a while, he'd smash some shit or he'd fight, and he'd have like one line, which I understand essentially works for the character, but I don't know. I just don't think it was executed that well. I felt it could have been a lot a lot better. And the robot Claptrap, which is voiced by Jack Black, kind of at times was a little bit annoying. He did have some funny moments, but then there was times where I was like, "All right, it's too much of this. Stop." And it just kind of half of his jokes hit, half of them fell flat. Let me put it that way. Should they have removed him from the movie? No, but maybe they could have changed how he his dialogue a little bit, made him a little bit more. I get what they were going for. It just didn't deliver 100%. But again, Kevin Hart did a great job. I wish the actors just would have had a chance to develop their characters so that you connect with the characters more. Like there's a scene in the movie where Kevin Hart stays behind so that they can get away, and then he's taking on a bunch of the psychos that live in an underground cave lair, whatever you want to call it. But you essentially think, oh, he might die, right? There's a scene where it seems like he sacrifices himself. But you're like, I don't care if he sacrificed himself because I have no connection to the character. There was no time to develop any connection with the character because the movie just got going and just started moving, moving, moving. And it makes it difficult. Again, back to Cate Blanchett. She did a great job at the end when she turns into the Firehawk. It looks cool. She does a great job. Can't complain. The acting to me wasn't the problem, aside from a few things that I mentioned. I think the acting was the point. Bobby Lee actually has a freaking hilarious appearance in this movie. That's actually probably the funniest part of the movie to me. And Bobby Lee's a comedian to me that some stuff he does I find funny, some stuff he does I don't find funny. He delivers on this one, at least for me. I thought he did a great job, and even though he's in there for a very, very short time. Gina Gershon's also in this, and she does a good job as her character. Nothing out of the ordinary there, but yeah, just a good cameo by her. She plays a character who's like a brothel owner, Mad Moxie, and she does her job, man. Gina Gershon's always been a solid actress. As far as the filmmaking in this movie, like I said, I was shocked that Eli Roth wasn't promoted more as the director or co-writer of this movie. I mean, the guy has a great track record. Cabin Fever, Hostel. It's also weird because I mostly know him for horror movies, and then here he is doing Borderlands. So I'm not sure how he ended up on this project, but I was disappointed in the filmmaking. And the biggest thing is the characters live in this universe that's not of this world, and I feel like they're very boxed in the movie. If you look at it, I would say 90% of the movie is filmed, or I don't know if it was filmed on sets or if it's CGI, but everything seems boxed in, almost like that they were in a studio, and it's almost like they're always in valleys and there's high walls around them. And it doesn't work to establish this planet as like a real place. It almost seems like a set that you would see in older movies when they completely rebuilt, a location, and they're trying to hide everything that's behind it. That's what it seemed like to me. If you look at movies that take place on other planets, just take a look at like Star Wars and stuff. You get to see stuff in the distance. You see none of that here. Nothing in the distance at all. So it seems very boxed in. I almost say it almost feels like they filmed a very highly executed, very highly like filmed with high end cameras, high end props, like play or something. Because again, them being like almost in a valley and surrounded by these high walls, almost the entire movie are enclosed, just doesn't let you capture this planet that they're supposed to be visiting. So I thought that was a huge flaw in the filmmaking, and I don't know what the reason for that was, but I would have loved to be able to see more of the overall planet. I mean, you get some shots from above, but when you're down there, you can never. I don't think there's any scene where you can say I can see into the distance at all. And I thought that was a major flaw in the filmmaking. Also, again, back to the filmmaking, the story development. I mentioned it before. You don't care about these characters because they don't take enough time to develop the characters. I feel like they try to cram too much into such a short period of time. I feel like if they would have broken this movie into two parts, and the first one, initially you develop the characters, by the time you got to the end, you would care a lot more about the characters. Krieg, literally, he just joins Roland and Tiny Tina in the very beginning. No explanation, nothing. And then Tiny Tina, the girl did a great job that plays her, Ariana Greenblatt. She did a great job. But again, there is no, like, when she talks about how she was essentially kind of built from DNA that was found, there's no explanation of why she was locked up, how she was locked up, or they did it. It happened so fast that you don't really get to connect with any of the characters. You get a little bit of Cate Blanchett backstory, but it's so fast, so short that you don't really have time to say, "Man, I care about them." And even the bad guy, like, there's no other than he's part from a major corporation. There's no real reason for you to be like, I understand this guy's mission, other than just greed. Like there is normally you want to develop them a little bit more, and I feel like they just rushed everything. So I felt that the setup of the scenes, the scenery, the could have been a lot better, and because it's a different planet. It looks fake, right? The characters look fake, all that kind of stuff, or not looks fake, but they seem, like they're not human. And then you're recreating this environment, and it just doesn't work for me when you can't see beyond 30 yards because everything is high. They're always in a low position compared to what's surrounding them. Also, the music in the movie from the trailer, I thought there was going to be an awesome soundtrack, and I was pretty disappointed in the music in this movie. It did not match the energy that you got in the trailer, which was somewhat of a letdown. I thought it might be able to save itself with a good soundtrack, kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy has, and it did not do that at all. As far as scenes in this movie, it's I don't think there's really the best scene or the best overall sequence to me was when they went into this cavern and it was filled with psychos, and that part was interesting because they're trying to get past a huge horde of psychos, and eventually they Kevin Hart's character Roland, he seemingly sacrificed himself. That scene is shot very well, like in slow mo and things like that, and it looks very cool. But I think the whole movie, other than that, just looks so cookie cutter going through that nothing really stands out, and it's unfortunate when it comes to this movie because they could have done a lot more. They just, I don't know if it was because they were on a shorter budget than anticipated, time constraints. I don't know what it was, but they didn't build, and you can't look back and say, damn, that scene was good. It, yeah, it just, I don't think there's anything that stood out for me other from that one scene, which literally lasts 30 seconds or so. And again, it's a scene where you're supposed to kind of care that he's sacrificing himself, or at least it seems like he is and you think he is, but then you don't care because again, there's no character development to care about the character. So it was unfortunate that that was the case. I honestly am going to be shocked if this movie makes its money back at the box office. I don't see. I knew before I went to watch it, I was like, they effed up on this one. I was just hoping that I was wrong. But as soon as I watched it again, if you're going in there no expectations and don't have high expectations, you're going to be okay. This is fine. But for a movie that brings in this type of celebrity, you would think that they would do a lot more to make it successful, other than just a big marketing budget. And I mean, if they recoup their money at the box office, I am going to be surprised. Clearly, they left the ending open to make a sequel. In my opinion, the way that it ends, I feel like there can be a sequel, but I doubt we're gonna get that sequel because unless unless it just scores big at the box office, it's not going to happen because reviews for it, from what I've seen, are also not very good. Like I said, I didn't really care for it. As a movie, my rating for this thing would have to be a scale of 1 to 10, ooh, 4.5. I'm giving it a 4.5. Kevin Hart, like I said, I thought did good because you rarely see Kevin Hart as not the center of attention. He did a good job kind of being a secondary character. The acting is really what was the best thing about this movie. Cate Blanchett did an awesome job. Most of them did a good job, aside from Jamie Lee Curtis in that voice. But it's acting's not enough when the way it's filmed doesn't work, when the story can't develop appropriately. So yeah, there you have it, guys. A 4.5 for Borderlands. Honestly, if you just don't care and you're looking to spend an hour and a half, 40 minutes at the movies, go watch it. It's entertaining. There's action. If you're actually looking to see a good movie that you're gonna come back and say, "Damn, I enjoyed that," I'm gonna recommend that to people. I'd find something else. I don't know what else came out this week, but I think Cuckoo came out. I don't know. Maybe go with something like that if you can find it in a theater near you. But yeah, I wasn't disappointed because I knew was going to be the case. I was just let down that I was right in the sense that this is what I knew was going to happen. So I'm curious to see what I'm just really curious to see how it does at the box office and to see because I mean if I was a betting man, I'd bet the house on it's going to lose a shit ton of money. But we'll see. Time will tell. But there you go. Borderlands 4.5. Appreciate if you smash a like on this video and appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. We have more content coming soon. We're going to be doing some lives. We're going to do more movie reviews, more trailer reactions, do more movie debates. And again, appreciate you guys' support. Smash a like on this video, and we will love you forever. No, not really love you forever, but we will greatly appreciate it. And if you can subscribe to the channel, it would help us out a lot. Thank you very much. I'm Nathan, and this is 24 Chambers of Film, and this has been the Borderlands movie review.